Okay, so good morning or good afternoon, everyone. We're excited to be with you today with Translators on Air, a series of webinars hosted by BureauWorks. So, this initiative is centered around the beating heart of our industry in this era of AI translators. And throughout these events, we are talking about translators having different roles like professors, translation managers, students, or linguists. So we delve into the transformative era of AI and we offer insights, and we are here for us to understand, learn, interact, and build awareness and strategy, encouraging your involvement and critical thinking. So every week we have a special guest here on this air, and we talk about the evolving role of the translators. Allow me to introduce myself in case you have not been with me with Translators on Air before. I'm Viveta, and I have 20 years of experience in the industry, and I provide a 360-degree view. So I serve as an AI language solution specialist, MTP expert and trainer, and PhD candidate in translation. Additionally, I am the head of partnerships with PeerWorks, which is a translation technology company synonymous with innovation in the translation tech field. And the proof is that BWX is the winner of the Process Innovation Challenge Award at Lockwood 50. So today our question is coming from a continent with 2,000 languages, from over 3,000 tribes and 55 countries. And the source for this data is the Multilingual magazine. And we're going to explore with our guest how AI manages translation in a plural continent like Africa. So today we have the pleasure to have with us Johan Botha, and he is African language solutions expert, director at Folio Online and Folio InterTel, founder of ALCA, Gala Committee member, Loglands Ambassador Cape Town, and the father of a beautiful boy and girl. He's a fanatic of comics and proud nerd, but this is his, I think, LinkedIn description. Allow me to introduce Johan, and Johan, the floor is yours. Tell us about you.
Hi, Viveta. Thank you for having me. As I mentioned to her, it's sort of bare and black behind me because we're doing some renovations in our office. So hopefully I told everyone and all of the drilling and things to stop. So hopefully everything is quiet. Yeah, I've been like Viveta, I've been in the industry for about 20 years. I am one of, as she said, I'm a director at Folio Online. We are probably I would say either the second or even the oldest LSP in Africa. We just turned 35 years old now. And we started sort of doing South African languages and then eventually expanding to being specialist in African languages in general. I studied language at university, studied Afrikaans, which is my mother tongue, and sort of did, I think in my third year, translation was a small side subject as sort of a small thing that you took if you didn't really know what to take. And I enjoyed it quite a lot. And I decided, okay, well, let me do it postgrad, and I did it right up till master's level. And then after that, I decided, okay, I got a post or an offer for a job teaching at university, teaching linguistics. But like many people out there, your decisions is influenced by how in love you are. So I had a new girlfriend and we were getting quite serious and everything. So I decided let me rather stay where I am and see how that goes. And so I passed on the opportunity to go into lecture in linguistics. but I think I'm pretty glad I did. Academia, even though I'm very fond of what academia does and the interaction with academia and our industry, I don't think I would have made a very good lecturer. I'm much better sitting with my dictionaries and doing translations and so on. So yeah, that's in a nutshell my position and how I came into the industry.
Amazing. And this shows once again how the professional life and the personal life interact. And we all have been there. And it is really, I mean, credits for the 35 years. It is great work so far. And you have this unique experience with African languages. I also know that Maria do Campo, who recently had her PhD degree, she was dealing in the multilingual magazine. She has an article about the minority languages and the lower source languages. So it is a great topic for us because we need to understand the challenges of these languages and what is the situation in the market. So I believe that you have probably been invited in many events lately and you have discussed this topic. Um, I will share my screen and show some data coming from the Multilingual magazine, and we can comment in your journey all these years. Is the demand for localization into African languages increasing along with the volume of words to be translated?
Uh,
How do you feel?
yeah, no, the demand is generally there. There were a couple of years, or quite a few years, where everyone said Africa is the next best thing, and it's going to boom, and then sort of nothing happened. Um, and but I think let's say the past 3 years or so, uh, clients have really decided, I really come to note that if you want to, that old adage, if you want to sell something, you sell it in their language, and that is particularly the case for very very proud ethnicities in Africa. If numbers, I don't think. I often say to people, I don't think people realize just how big Africa is. You can fit the whole of America in. You can fit the whole of India. You can fit so many countries in Africa. They generally think of Africa as sort of this homogeneous continent, and everyone speaks the same language and so on. So, but I think that is changing. Clients, especially if they want to really start selling their product and tap into the market of people they start to sell into the language. Not just the majority languages, but depending on what they want to achieve and what product they have, they specifically go into the local languages. So demand grew substantially. Number of words per language is still it's still small. You have my language and many of the South African languages. So I said the you have countries where people want to buy a service, and let's take South Africa. We have now with South African Sign Language, we have 12 official languages. So how do you decide which of those 12 you want to market your product in? Do you go for the actual market of people that you want to reach? Do you just go into all of the biggest languages, and then if you go into the biggest languages, you may risk making people angry because you don't include their language. So I think generally in Africa, that is quite a. You mentioned the 2,000 languages. Generally, that is a big problem. What languages should people localize their product into? Nigeria has 500 languages. Not all are some are quite small, but I mean, it's 500 languages. You have to do a lot of market research to exactly find out who you want to reach, what you want to do. And I think at the moment, clients, or it's becoming a little bit better, but in the past, clients sort of did a hit and miss. They just said, well, that's the biggest languages in that country. Let's go to that, and then their product didn't sell, and they couldn't understand it, and they withdrew from the market. But I think now with education, it's becoming a lot better. People are understanding exactly who they want to reach. If you do a product for cities, there are certain languages. If you do a product for medical or something for more rural areas, the urban languages won't work. And I think that is something that we as a company and other companies can help with in Africa, is educating people on what languages and what groups and how people should approach the market of Africa, because I think that's still not understood as much as it can be.
Yeah, there are many challenges. Based on my experience as a vendor manager in the past, it was sort of difficult to find the different locales for the different places in Africa. Then I noticed that there was a huge interest from companies being based in the US to expand and cover
Yeah, yeah,
African languages, but without, though, as you said, thinking of all the different, let's say, dialects or locales that there may be. And the other thing is that even if we would like to cover them, probably we would have to reach to companies like yours being in Africa and not directly deal with the translators, because I don't know if it is my impression, I have no clue. For me, it was difficult to reach directly out to them, how to say, day-to-day translators
yeah,
being
yeah.
in Africa. And I believe the same goes for other, for example, if you want to find translators in Greece, it's going to be sort of difficult. But even on LinkedIn, I believe for some of the locales, it is very difficult to approach people. And then there is another parameter, just to go a little bit closer to AI. It is that the level of education, like you said, is somehow different. So it is a different perspective how we are educated and use CAT tools and AI in Europe or in the US, and this is a difficult level of education in Africa. So there, it would be nice if you could share with us what are the challenges, and how have you shaped your perspective on AI in translation?
Um, I think the one of the first things that we have to do is manage what AI can do for Africa, because people sort of think AI can do everything, but they equate that to AI can do everything in English, for example. But in many African languages, I would say, well, I would probably say 85 to 90% of the languages that I've dealt with, AI isn't good at all. It doesn't speak the language. If you ask it to translate something, I had the other day, I did a test for South Sudan, a language, Nuer, which is a big language, and asked several several large language models to what is the translation of that. And the hallucination was to such an extent that it just spewed random characters. It was very strange. So I think before in Africa, before we, and I've mentioned that to many people in the past, before we start actually incorporating true AI and Gen AI, let's for our industry, let's first start with machine translation. And I know, Viveta, you've been in the machine translation post editing market for a long time and specialize in that. So I think for the localization industry, let's first start there. Let's first get the machine translation engines up and running, and having those be work well, which in itself is a big challenge, because machine translation needs quite a big data set to be trained well. So I think let's start with Vivien. I know some companies are now approaching it one at a time. They take one language in Africa. They say, let's start there. Let's create an engine, a specialized engine that only focuses on, let's say, Swahili or Zulu, and let's focus only on medical translations. Let's feed it 1,000 segments, high quality segments. Let's train it, and let's start there, because there simply isn't enough data to say let's train an engine with 20 languages and have it do all subject levels. It's just not going to work. So I think what's nice and what I'm excited about is what's happening is companies are specifically starting to realize that how it works for English, we'll have to find really a true specific scenario in Africa. Um, I spoke yesterday to someone about open AI, the creation of your own GPT, which some of or that person was especially happy about, because he can load all of his own translations into that and have it do machine translation for him. But that is his own thing, and that won't necessarily be market ready. So I think before we do real AI that can do lots of things and can solve all of that, let's start a little bit earlier. Let's get, especially for our industry, let's get NMT sorted out, and then once that is done, then we can actually use that data to train an engine to do lots of other things.
Yeah, it's there are two. It's like a parallel universe, I would say. It is the LLMs and it is the NMT. The
Yeah.
result comes from a different process, from a different training. One is training with a configuration of humans. The other is big data training LLMs thing. So yeah, you are completely right. And there are three things that we need to understand, that we have three cases of technology. One is the first era, which was the TM era, translation memories. Then we have MT, and now we have AI. So it is three different things, three different processes. So the question here for Africa, because I don't know and I would like to learn, is have we conquered at a satisfactory level the translation memory education for translators? Or are there still translators who would not like to use translation memories and CAT tools?
cat tools. If we can, that's quite interesting. Cat tools is widely, let's say, most of our resources, even the smaller ones, know about it, and most use it on occasion. So translation memory in itself, that's fine. People had sort of an initial, well, but let's say about a decade or so ago, had an initial fear, again, the same fear that I think machine translation has now. People say I'm not going to get as much money. There's things like fuzzy matches and so on, so I'm going to lose out. But I think that has changed now. So cat tools is widely known and it's widely used, but probably I think the most or the biggest, let's say, problem. Let's start with two problems in Africa that's unfortunately always dominating most industries is connectivity and electricity. So obviously, if it's electricity, and your PC can't be on, then your PC can't be on. You can't use a cat tool. If you use a cat tool and you have electricity, your PC can work, but you don't have internet, then you can't use an online cat tool, an always on cat tool. So, and I mean, just financial, that's a huge problem in Africa as well. Translators generally don't make as much money, so they can't spend an exorbitant amount of to get buy licenses for a whole variety of cat tools, because sometimes it's beginning to get better, but for a long time clients demanded that said, listen, you must use my cat tool or you don't get the job. Luckily, that's changing, and translators in Africa say, okay, we'll start using a cat tool, but I want to use one, and you as the client should be able to, or should send me a compatible version to do it. I don't think, and I mentioned this on interviews quite extensively, is I don't think end clients, not that it's the problem at all, but I don't think end clients realized how much translators in Africa still prefer to work in Word. So for a long time, our days were filled with exporting documents into Word so that you have a translation on time, can have quickly. Then we have to import it back, check tags, check consistency, upload the TMC, what glossary terms is incorrect, go back to the translator, say to them, this is the problem, and have them fix it. So it's for translators who has to work online, but they don't have connectivity. Those are some of the issues that they have. We, as the service provider, have to get it into a format for them to be able to work on it in Word or a mobile friendly version. But I think nowadays having a single cat tool that has either an always on internet function or if need be, has some sort of export function where you can export something to a local XLF file or even a bilingual review file or something like that. And then the translator can work offline on it. And whenever connectivity is back up, then upload it and work like that. So that is, it's becoming widely used. And I think translators are really liking that they can do a lot more at a time. They start to realize what is a fuzzy match, what is a 100% match, what is a perfect match, all of that. and it's dawning on them, and as I think it will eventually dawn on them with machine translation, that they can do a lot more. They can get through a lot more. They don't necessarily have to lose out on financially lose out. And I think lots of them are beginning to understand that. But the education, that's where I think academia can come in. Education of what do CAT tools do? What are the advantages of it? What Because, for instance, when I was a student many years ago, you had sort of, I think it was half an hour little talk about what is a CAT tool. That's it. Um, and and I don't think that's sort of changed much at all. You would have to start off saying, this is a CAT tool, this is technology, this is how you're going to do your translations. There's no other way that you're going to be able to get ahead without using technology, and have the students become familiar with that. And I think once that sets in, then that would pave the way easier for machine translation and eventually AI translation as well.
Indeed, and yeah, what you said is really important because it highlights the different conditions in the different countries and how something that can be considered, let's say, a fear or a curse, because this
Mm,
was it like 5 years ago when we were hearing about machine translation again. It was like the evil around us. Now it's AI that took this place, but you see that the evil for some countries, it's a blessing for another country. So, for example,
mm,
in Africa, it is a blessing because these people don't have a wide range of hours to enjoy electricity. So this means that with machine translation, of course, under in a framework of education, and when they know exactly how to do it, they can perform like in 4 hours, even 4 or 5 thousand words if it
yeah.
is in their specialization field, if they are experts, and if they meet specific requirements and use cases. So this is a very good thing. What we miss, probably, as you said, is the education. So this is what we need to take care of with academic plans.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I think this is the situation while we go towards AI right now. But AI is again a different chapter. So we have not, what you said is that we have not yet solved machine translation, and we go to the next level, which is AI. Yeah, indeed, we didn't find the best training for machine translation and post editing. We didn't have the time to do many things, and this is also an impact on the academic level, meaning that not many people were interested in research in machine translation, post editing, or machine translation. So in some countries, at least, in other maybe yes, but in some countries we struggle to have trainers, and this is something that has been discussed in many events.
Yeah.
And taking it from there, I see that in Africa, the challenges are more related to education and conditions than with the AI itself. Because
Mm.
I suppose, it is uncharted, correct?
Yeah, yeah. It's the thing also that people has to have to know is that there are countries and languages who don't have universities, because if you say, for instance, you have in Somalia, there are political turmoil, so a basic university to teach all of these things just doesn't exist. That's so. So I think education is extremely important, but we have to also realize that it's sometimes not possible to have all languages be equally knowledgeable about all technology in our industry. So I think let's, and that's why I like that YouTube and all of those things are there, and online learning, if they can have the connectivity, um, translators can educate themselves that way if they don't have an official education system. Stay, and I think perhaps we can touch on that a little bit later, on what translators themselves in Africa can do, how they can try and set themselves apart, to get ahead of the others. Um, the I think so. Sorry, the other thing that I didn't mention, that I think is also important regarding connectivity, is just how expensive it is. Here in South Africa, uh, internet is, or it was for a while. I haven't checked in a while. Here in South Africa, internet per megabyte was the most expensive in the world. So you get, even if you do have connectivity, it's very expensive connectivity, so you don't want to use a lot of it, and that might be impacting on having a always on, in running in the background, connection, that might not be inducive to financial sense or so on, and translators can say, listen, this thing won't work for me, I'd rather do something else. And something that
And I
I
have a
just,
question. Yes,
yes.
please. The question is, because this is a crucial point, and I was thinking before. Um, Okay, we have connectivity issues, and we can counterbalance with the help of machine translation by increasing the potential of people. But this is for the translators. From the LSP's perspective, like you
Mm,
are an LSP, how do you deal with it? Meaning, do you have a special treatment of translators because you understand their position and you have some benefits for them? Or are you this kind, I will be honest, of LSPs that you take advantage of machine translation and have huge discounts in order probably for you to cover your own expenses
mm,
coming from the
mm.
same situation? So, what is the golden rule there?
Um, I think if I had to, we as a company uh, train people in, our company has certain uh, things that one of our translators that apply here, they have to be able to fulfill. They have to do tests and see how quickly they can do it. They have to know about confidentiality, all of those things. So I think the way that we approach it is to say, I have a small language in the DRC. What is the best way for my client to approach that language in the DRC? Is it to bombard it with lots of information and say, listen, you have to use NMT, you have to use this and that, um, or do you give the translator the freedom to choose what works best for their language? Um, and I think many end clients specifically say, if you want to use an online CAT tool, they say to them, you have to use it in this way. It has to have these sort of checks. There has to be a dictionary attached to it, and you have to have um, glossary checks that have to balance out, and people's sort of clients are short-sighted, and they say, well, your translation doesn't match the glossary, it doesn't point out things, so it must be a poor translation. And I think for us, one thing that I forgot that I think we should just mention as well is, for many languages in Africa, there aren't enough work to do. So many of them have a second job. So they will then say, I can't do this job. It's not enough money, so I'm going to rather focus on my other job. And I'll do this translation of yours, I'll do it in the evenings. And that in itself has a few things that people have to take note of. If we do automation, and I know Bureau Works is very good on automation, and it works well. But if a translator has a second job, and translation is sort of done on the side, it might be a very good translator, but it's not their first job. Then if you do automation, many African translators are at work. So if a file is sent or a project is sent and it's automated, the translator gets an email in his or her email that says, this is your job, please accept it. But a translator is at their work, they're not sitting in front of their PC, so they might not see the job. So I think what we do is, yes, we can do automation for our company, but we add layers such as sending a WhatsApp to the translator saying, listen, there is a translation job for you. Can you help get back to me via WhatsApp and do it like that? So it's just a little bit trying to be a little bit smarter in doing things. You realize what is automation. Everyone will love automation, but for this language it won't work. Let's get some automation to get it to a Gmail account plus all of the other accounts, plus send a message through, I don't know, Skype or WhatsApp or all of those things to reach the translator and say, okay, now I'm with you. I can say to you, I can help with that, and I can help with it right now, or I can help with it in the evenings to do it. So it's just be open to make changes for the languages and the regions that you do. And I think once agencies do that, then it will work out a lot better.
And I believe that what you said is very important for other LSPs, for end clients, for translation technology providers, that every country has different lifestyles and different opportunities. There's always talent, but the opportunities are not the same. So this is important because we need to adapt. So when we're, for example, now you just said about WhatsApp, and I know that this is a matter of cultural communication. It becomes culture for a country if they communicate through WhatsApp or another app on the mobile. And the same goes for the clients. In other countries, they use the same app to communicate with clients and have deals. While in Europe, the standard process is to go through LinkedIn or emails or this kind of stuff. And at this point, I would like to ask you, culturally speaking, do you implement AI in your company for automations? I mean, for business automation or for translation, or still it makes no sense for you?
Automation, yes. So I use some of my colleagues, not that much. Personally, I use it for a lot of things. I think it's very good at even in my language. It's very good at summarizing things. You have a long document and you want to summarize it and find the key points. That it's very good at that. But I think for translation, I would, as I mentioned, I would probably say 98% of the African languages that I encounter wouldn't touch AI for translations. It's just not good enough. Some of the fonts aren't there. Some languages have very specific fonts. We had a problem with having, for instance, in Ethiopia, the Amharic, which is one of the biggest languages, has a specific font, and it took quite a while to actually just get a Unicode font that can work on something like Windows. So that font might be there, but it's gobbledygook. It doesn't say anything. So if it can't even talk to you in your font and your language, the chances are that it's doing translations is zero. So for us, what we are starting to do now is adopt that same principle of creating hyper specialized machine translation engines that deals with one very specialized vertical. Say, for instance, you have patents. No, patents not good. Let's say it's some legal area where the documentation is usually contracts, that the documentation
Let's
is usually
say
accept.
technical documentation, because even
Yes,
legal is suffering a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah. So let's say technical documentation. I actually specifically said legal because sometimes if it's a standard contract for buying a house or buying a car or something like that, it doesn't differ that much. But let's say technical documentation, that doesn't change a lot, and some of the wording is the same throughout. Let's start with a hyper specialized engine in a few languages, get a good sense of get a good data set with I think sort of someone said to me that about 1,000 units, translation units, is a good place to start. Very good, and see if we can train the engine on that. But I think the other thing, and I think that comes with education as well, is I don't think people realize just how expensive it is to train AI. And to train a machine translation, you need computing power, you need data sets, you need to be cognizant of confidentiality. You can't just load any old data on there. But I think if we can start one at a time. The other thing that you mentioned that I think is quite nice, you mentioned the different stages and the different history of going through the processes of translation memory and then machine translation and now AI, is lots of the problems that, let's say, European languages or English or so on had with machine translation. African companies and engines they can use. They can say, listen, French had this problem to train their engine in that way. Let's not make that same mistake when we train our African translation engine. Much of the problems that AI is having much of the solutions that people are working with AI. Let's go back and use all of those solutions, see how we can adapt it to the African market to get things working a lot quicker than what I think it might have been for let's say the global north. Start with machine translation. What did you say? 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Let's learn from the future to go back into the past.
Exactly. And going towards the future, I will challenge myself, us, and the audience because I'm going to share my screen. And I used somehow, I would say, marketing document because it is the presentation I use for BWX. So I
Mm,
have a document like this, and it is, let me share. It is from English into Afrikaans, and
mm,
it's interesting because I don't understand anything,
mm,
and it's up to you to check and let me know if it works somehow well or not. We
mm,
take into account two things. One is that for machine translation post editing, we have training of data by human and human configuration. This means that
mm,
we can categorize the errors. We know what our errors are going to be produced, and we can train the translators in the errors that they will try to detect.
mm,
While when we have AI, this cannot happen because we don't know exactly what errors to expect, and because we don't train, there is not an empty manager trainer to train the system. The translator becomes the trainer of the system, meaning that while you type, the system learns, it adapts to your
mm,
style, terminology, and the next time it's going to produce something unpredictable that you cannot know how well done
mm.
is going to be. So this is the case here. We have machine translation and AI, and we also have, I'm going to hide this, we have the AI functions. So we have translation smells, which is a warning if something goes wrong with the translation. And then we have proofreading. If there are errors, I don't know, I can produce an error here. So let's see if it finds something. So for proofread, for example, it did correct it.
It corrected it, yes.
Yeah, and then we have alternative suggestion. I don't know if there is something here because it is the word translation memory. So I think it says explanation. The suggested
Mm,
translation is the correct and accurate translation of the term. So this alternative suggestion is
mm,
very, how to say, very convenient for translators
mm,
because it can give some hints. And then we can go down here and I can show you the basic things about however, translators are very excited about these basic things. So here we have fixed tags. So it goes directly and fix the tags and place them in the correct position in the text, which is a lifesaver, I would say. So here it is. So these are basic things. Now, in addition to the features that we have, like check smells for warnings, I don't know if there is any check smells here, for example. It runs directly, no check smells.
yeah, the
Maybe if I have a bigger sentence, like here, who knows?
I'm not sure.
Um,
Sorry if I can just interrupt you.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, I that's translation smells. That's the first time I've seen that.
Uh-huh.
It can be it's either very funny or I'm not sure how translators are finding that if you
Here it
have
is.
your very fabulous, wonderful translation and the system says it smells. But so that's
Well,
interesting
let
if
me
people
let me
say that.
explain this feature. Okay, So translation smells is just a warning, meaning if it does not exist, it does not mean that the translation is correct without any warnings. And if there is a warning, maybe this warning is not correct. So the decision making stays with the translator. That's why we love BWX, because translator is at the heart of the translation process. He is the or she is the decision maker and the problem solver. So here we see, for example, a mistranslation, and it says the term enterprise has been translated as, help me, which is more commonly used to refer to a business or company. In this context, it should be translated as ondernemingsvlak, I don't know,
Yes,
to
yes.
correctly convey enterprise grade. So this is the comment. Maybe it's correct, maybe it's not correct. It's just a warning that may help you catch an error.
Okay. Yeah, we.
But in your opinion, I can go up and down and show you more segments. How
Yeah.
is machine translation working here? Really bad?
As yeah, no, for my language Afrikaans, it's machine translation is generally all right. It's not great, but I'm specifically because I think Afrikaans, my language, is so it's big technically. Most
Mm-hmm.
Afrikaans speakers are connected to the internet. There's a vast array of data and so on. So I, my experience for machine translation with Afrikaans is generally that it's not great with translating single words. So because it's not good at knowing when it's a noun and verb and so on. Sentences are a little bit better. Um, yeah, it's I don't want to venture into saying a translation is good or not without actually checking it against the context and against all
Mm-hmm.
of the things and knowing what it
Of
is. But
course.
but I mean, there are generally, I would say it's looks the same as what you have a Google Translate or something like that. Um, but I mean, I,
Mm-hmm.
I think as you mentioned, as translators use it, and it learns from the translator what is good, what is not good, and can override some of these. Uh, sorry, I can't get over this translation smells, but it's. I think the more that the system learns, it should get better, as you say. Um, but I think it's good
And
that you
mhm.
use Afrikaans because it's generally one of the better versions of machine translation that you have for African languages.
Well, it uses Microsoft Azure and integrates ChatGPT 3.5 and 4. So these are
Mm,
assistive functions. We don't use like AI in a non-safe way. And the important thing for you and for Africa, because you mentioned the concept of confidentiality and security, and it comes again and again lately in my social media. It is that I consider BWX a security fortress. We are Type 2 SOC 2 Type 2 certified, so it means that we have the highest level of security, and everything that happens within the fortress is completely safe. And I think that this is great for translators, because you know that if you export or if you have a desktop version, then who knows where the translators work and if the documents are safe. While working on a cloud environment that is certified, this makes it even better. And you're just not in an open chat, a chat AI, open AI chat
mm.
environment where you have no security and no guarantee of what the data go through. So I believe that this is important. So here you see an example with many, many things, just for you to see all the potential of translation smells with 2 mistranslations and 1 addition. So it says the translation includes the word omskep, which means transform. This word is not present in the original text and should be removed. Is it true, Johan?
Mm, English power is. Yeah, I'm not sure why it has that. That's not there. As an enterprise framework that harnesses the. Oh, okay, I see. That omskep is that harnesses the potential. So that would go with that harnesses the raw potential. Yeah, no, I would actually not say to remove it completely. It might not be the best word,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean it's
This is exactly what I need from you. I mean, maybe it should not be removed, but this is just a warning. So maybe you
yeah
take it from there and you make your final decision, which is an assistance, don't you think?
yeah yeah
Yeah.
the
Okay.
yeah
Any
we can
questions?
yeah no it's I'll need to play around with it a bit to exactly see how it works and I mean, as I do with a lot of other tools to see if it works for the market, and I think it's generally quite exciting if you have a new tool and it looks to be promising, and then see how it if it can replace some of the tried and tested things that work for African languages. Um, but I'll see if I can play around with it a
Yeah,
little bit and
you
see
can
how it
do
works.
this, of course. And yes, we believe in the power of tools in the AI era. And as you said, because you said something really important, we're not translating words anymore. We translate concepts. So it's not about segments, it's about concepts. And this is the new paradigm, as it is explained very well by Gabriel Ferman, our CEO. And let's conclude. So, what would be your advice to the African translators right now that they're going to this transition from the before AI era to the AI era? How would you advise them for their future? Oops, we are frozen here a little bit. In the meantime, if I am with you and you can see me, we can share our link for the 30%. For those of you that will sign up today, you have a special link, so you have 30% off for the first 3 months of your subscription. So you can check the tool, and the pricing is really good. And yes, I go back to Johan now. So, Johan, what is your advice to the translators in the AI era?
I think and we touched on that. I think the most important is for translators to educate themselves, to keep they don't need to use everything, but know everything. Stay on LinkedIn, sign in for webinars, sign in for there are so many free things that you can learn for yourself, because I think even if something basic like cattle don't work for you now, it will definitely work for you at a later stage. Um, and I think working, and I say that to many people, make a problem, make it not the client's problem. That's probably the biggest advice I can say give to individual translators is, you know everything. The client comes to you for your expertise. Make their life easier. Know all of know all of the technology. Know how to work it. If a client asks you for technology, know what alternatives there are that they can use. So really, I think these days, with the pace that AI and technology and everything works, to say I can't do it in this tool, or I can't do it there, or that, or X, or I don't know this technology is just not good enough. People will just go to the next person who does know it. And perhaps a very small little thing that I try to bring into each webinar or thing that I do is to say to translators, and I'm not sure if it's generally internationally, but I find it mostly in translators, is they apply for a job, or on their LinkedIn they have a fabulous resume or anything, but they don't say what their language is. So they say, I am a wonderful translator that can do X, Y, Z, or so on. And then I have to search in their email, I have to search in their LinkedIn for what language do you actually do. So some advice for African translators, everyone who listens to it, is put in your LinkedIn profile right at the top, what is your language? What is your specialty? What can you do for me? I don't have time to search for it, and the clients don't have time to search for it. So it's actually quite shocking sometimes that you have to read through a whole LinkedIn thing and a whole CV, and then afterwards you still don't know. The person looks wonderful, but you have no idea what language the person speaks or can translate it. So if I can steal some time of that, of this webinar or this talk, just mention that to translators. Listen, be a lot more specific to say, what can you do for me? What language you speak? What tools you use, so that I can make a much quicker decision.
Very nice advice, and it gives me a good reason to continue and give another advice. For all translators, it's good if you evaluate translation technology providers for what they offer and LSPs for what they offer. Let's not mix up things, because we have different roles. We offer technology at your service to make you feel better with your work, and LSPs offer you projects in specific tools, and it is up to them to decide how they will use them, and it is up to you to decide if you will accept them or not. So this is, I think, a good message, Johan, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, but I think also one of the things that I was at a recent conference, and I think the tech companies and the LSPs should work together a lot more. We say to the tech companies, this is what you can give us, but we don't like that. Rather give us this. Let's, yes, keep two things separate, but work a lot more in harmony, and say, I don't like this. It's not working for my translators. Can you do that? Before the whole tool is created, get some feedback from the actual people who will use the tool, and I think that's also important. Get learn from one another.
Yes, and there is a link between us. The person who will work with us together to educate each other, because we need to understand the pains and we need to find the solution together. So harmony is probably the word of the day. And I would like to thank you so much, Johan, for accepting this invite, for for let us explore the continent of Africa regarding translation and the world of translators. For me, it was fascinating. I hope for the audience as well. And reach out to Johan or me for any other questions you may have. We will be happy to reply. Thank you very much. Have all a nice day or a nice evening. Thank you, Johan. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.